All right. Welcome back, Matt.
Thanks for having me on again, Francis.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, your first appearance on the podcast was one of, it might actually at this point be the most watched video on this channel, which to me is a very strong indicator that the audience really liked what you had to say. So if for anybody that's listening that did not tune into that conversation, Matt is the founder and CEO of Hive Media, which is a top 100 agency that's pulling down, correct me if I'm wrong here, but between $750K and $1 million a month.
My friend.
You're doing it with the exact opposite of what I typically advocate for, which is you guys are pumping out insanely high volumes of more or less undifferentiated content with Latin American salary models. So as you might expect from somebody whose business is entirely predicated on scale and consistency, Matt is a very sharp operator. I really enjoyed our first conversation, and so I invited him back to pick his brain about some of the more technical elements of his business. And to add some depth to that conversation, we also have Chris, who built and manages a lot of that technical infrastructure for Hive. So thank you for coming on, Chris. Appreciate you being here as well.
Hello, Francis. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we just jump right into it. Are you guys ready?
Let's go.
100%.
So I want to start from the very beginning, which is account setup. Like obviously that is step one. So if you had to ballpark it, how many social media accounts are you guys currently managing across all models?
So across all models, within our database, within each platform, we maintain a minimum around 10,000 social media accounts. But just to give you that's just like a number as on a global, but to give you an exact figure. So when we start a model, every model gets issued 200 accounts on every major platform. So what does that
Holy
mean?
hell.
Okay, so that's Instagram, that is Twitter, that is Reddit. Am I missing anything here, Chris?
No, those would be our three main ones. We test a few other ones out here and there, but those are our main breadwinners.
Threads would be the last one.
Okay.
And then there's about 100 that become active immediately when they start, then 100 for reserve, depending on how the model does. The LTVs, returns, or replacement accounts based on, obviously there's a percentage of burn. Even if you're running organic 100%, there's always the risk of having some bans. We are in the OnlyFans space,
Of course.
and we're always regardless, you're always kind of bending those explicit guidelines, even if you're doing everything above.
Yeah. So Jesus, over 10,000 accounts. So roughly 200 accounts per platform, per model. I would imagine, given just the sheer number of reps that you guys have, that you probably have some pretty solid best practices for actually creating those accounts. So if you could just walk us through that process, and then if you can explain, again, we're talking about an insane volume of accounts. Explain why you do it this way, and maybe what some of the common pitfalls with account creation are that you see in the industry writ large.
Yeah, so I'll start by giving I guess a little bit of a summary on the state or the history of a creation and even where the industry's been. So you've talked about this in a lot of your other videos. Over the last few years, the industry's evolved, changed. I would say, and that's mostly on the social media front, right? 3 years ago with a cell phone, no proxy, the same phone, you could, bend rules, break rules, and push a lot harder. Social media platforms with, the growth of OnlyFans, the growth of spam are continuously changing, evolving, and latching down. So what you could do 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago on just your local computer, your home phone, your browser, things don't apply anymore. So I would say 2 to 3 years ago, most people were on web, whether it be Instagram, X, Reddit, creation was happening on web, whether they're using Gmail accounts, using US proxies, foreign proxies. A lot of these variables did not matter in the past. Nowadays, with the growth of OnlyFans, the attack on social media, and them really trying to control the spam, the way and the quality the bar has risen dramatically. So for us, we pretty much do everything to the highest standard possible. We believe that the future of the industry is almost going to be solely on phones. Why? This is how most users interact with the platform. So it's the most natural representation of a regular user. All of these websites use telemetry to identify user patterns, IP address, fingerprint. So what device are you on? A phone? What phone? Is the phone old? Is it jailbroken? Is it a computer? Most people right away, if you're using a computer, on Instagram. Well, that's not regular behavior of a user. So right away, it's kind of like a negative strike on your. So for us, it is the highest standard possible now. We moved to this about a year ago. So we are 100% cell phone created.
Okay.
We try to use high authority email addresses, so Gmails or iCloud accounts. Those again help increase everything you do in the positive column, increases the strength and what we refer to as trust score of the account. We use only US proxies. During the creation process, we believe that the mobile proxy is the strongest proxy that will have the least amount of problems. We use residential proxies to actually run the account, but during creation, you want to create these accounts as high authority as possible. So yeah, that touches on like device. Again, the newer the phone, the stronger the account's going to be. Mobile proxy, and then yeah, making sure we're creating everything on mobile days. This is kind of like this foundation of what we consider a high trust score account. And this is pretty much synonymous with any platform. Okay. If you add additional factors, guys, to your accounts, which are, let's say, like phone numbers, again, USA based, or 2FA verifications, this also will increase the strength of your account. Okay. So everything you do that is unnatural that is natural, that increases the security, that prevents it looking like a low effort account in the creation process will basically put you in a higher status starting out.
So, okay, all of that makes a ton of sense. Now, from like a practical sort of logistical perspective, what you just said is essentially what matters most is the degree of trust that you're building, the more natural of a user you appear to be during the account creation process.
Right.
But you guys are managing 10,000 plus accounts. So I can't imagine, do you just have VAs that are just sitting there all day, like manually inputting all of this? Or do you have some mechanism by which you can automate it while making it still appear to look like a user? What does that process look like for you guys?
One of the only processes that we currently still have that is manual is the actual phone creation. Okay. And it involves resetting fingerprints and rotating mobile proxies.
Okay.
So it is the pretty much one of the only phone processes we still have that's almost completely manual. Other than, and we'll talk about, I'm sure we're going to talk about this in a minute, some of the system management we do. Certain specific platforms has uniqueness that requires manual intervention. But because it is so intricate, it's so precise, there's such a room, we want it to be natural. We are still performing 100% hand created. So we have a full-time creation team, okay, that consists of 5 members of our team. And all they are doing every day, every single day, is creating Gmails, Reddit, Instagram, and then they go store it in our database.
Got it.
Okay.
So a couple more questions about trust score.
Yep.
You mentioned reputable emails. You're creating all of these emails by hand. Is there like an age fact? Like what makes let's say a random Gmail address reputable in the eyes of a social media platform?
So we have found, okay, and this is like, there's a lot of like stories, there's a lot of different philosophies when it comes to the Gmails. So we found that like freshly created is the most natural. Somebody gets a new phone, okay, which is essentially what we're doing is we're using blank devices, essentially, let's say, like just for simple terms. Somebody creates a Gmail, okay, and then creates an account with it. We do not find a major trust score addition to having aged Gmail addresses.
Sure.
We do find higher authority within Gmail and iCloud. Okay, that recognizes higher authority emails.
As opposed to like a Proton Mail or something?
Exactly, because the platforms know that Gmail and iCloud have a higher security, so it's less easy for people to spoof or replicate at scale, let's say.
Got it. Okay. And then on the proxy front, are there any like reputable proxy providers that you guys would recommend or continuously rely on? Or is that something that's like not necessarily evergreen, like the providers are changing all the time?
I would actually suggest people to not use any of the mainstream reputable providers.
Interesting.
Which is almost counterintuitive, right? So the thing with proxies is you want IPs, whether it's mobiles or residentials, you want things that are less run through within your category. So if you're using a proxy provider that every OFM user is using, likelihood that you get a repeat or you end up hitting something that's been used past or abused in the past is higher. So what I actually suggest to most people is there's many, many, many private suppliers out there, guys. Okay. Whether you're looking within forums or you're looking on, if you actually look at the softwares where you can create proxies or the softwares that you can create residential proxies at your house, Most of these have like Telegram groups or forums associated with them that you can find a bunch of people running that software and running services at a very cost-effective price. Okay.
Interesting.
And then they're very, like I said, they're private suppliers. They're not being mass manipulated. So we deal exclusively with private suppliers on all of our proxy front. That makes it so that our proxies are pure, have higher trust scores, and they're not being used within the OFM spec sector itself.
Got it. Okay. That makes perfect sense. So I think that's all the questions that I had about account creation. Chris, is there anything that you wanted to add, or was that pretty comprehensive?
Yeah, I would just add, it's pretty important to find a provider that will allow you to switch out individual proxies. That's one of the benefits we have with our provider is we got tens of thousands of proxies with them. And at any point, we could switch out 10, 300, 500 proxies individually. They're not in packages. And then I would say also tracking the proxies that you do get, because a lot of these proxy providers have a small pool and you end up rerunning through the same proxies. They'll just send you the same proxy again, which we've had with the previous provider. So just making sure that you're tracking that, comparing it with the new proxies that you get is super important.
Got it. And then are you using, I guess that actually does bring me to one more question. Are you using, is it one proxy per account? Are you able to batch multiple accounts together under a single proxy? Is there a best practice that you guys have found for that?
Touch on that, Chris. So it depends. So for mobile proxies, it's use case. Okay. So for creation, we're using mobile proxies.
Yep.
Which mobile proxies, if you're using the right suppliers, are going to have a rotation unit. So essentially, what does that mean, guys? People are like, what is a rotating proxy? What is a proxy? What's a mobile proxy? For those who may be less technical. So a mobile proxy, think of it on your cell phone. You're connecting to a tower. Multiple people are connecting to a tower. You are essentially getting a unique ID every time your phone connects to this tower. So what rotating the proxy means is essentially putting your phone or the mobile proxy into airplane mode, disconnecting it, and having it reconnect to get a new proxy identifier.
Got it.
A new connection string. So with a mobile proxy, you can actually reuse a proxy, not to say quite infinitely, but over and over again on multiple accounts, not at the same time, but in sequence of each other.
Okay.
Without having any problems. So you can use multiple accounts on a mobile proxy as long as it's one at a time.
Got it.
For a residential proxy, it's a fixed IP address that never changes. So if you're using residential, you want to have one proxy per one account, because they can see that it's a residential proxy, and that residential don't change, they don't reset, they stay fixed on accounts.
And if you have 20 accounts that are associated with the same residence, the social media platforms are going to say, well, that doesn't seem terribly likely.
Now, we go to the extreme of the 1-for-1, but you can do 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
But when you do 2, 3, 4, guys, is if you do have a ban on one account, there's more likelihood that you will receive a chain ban.
Makes sense.
So for us, we keep them separate so that the integrity of the accounts never get tainted by another account.
Makes perfect sense. Okay.
I would add to that for cost saving, that's for one specific social media platform. So one proxy we will use for Reddit, for Instagram, and for X, and for Threads, just because they're all different platforms. So it doesn't tie them together like it would if you're using the same proxy for the same platform.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense as well. And then you guys are, in terms of like managing that data, you're just saying this residential or this proxy was associated with X account, Y account, Z account for X model, and then that's all just a database entry essentially.
Yeah, I can share screens here if we're going to talk about like account management itself.
Yeah, I think that's what I want to talk about next.
Yeah. So I can actually show you kind of quickly here. Where's the share screen button? Here we go. So this is a screenshot, guys. Not all of the the columns are here, okay? We basically blanked out here on the left the account names, okay? Obviously for privacy reasons. But essentially what you see here is one part of a spreadsheet, I guess you can say, with accounts. And this is like 2FA. Over here, there's a status of account, notes that may have happened on the account. And then I have another part here. This is kind of part one over there, or part 2 is the other part. You have your proxy identifier here of all the accounts. Okay. This is a Reddit sheet, Reddit reset password. This would be the date of the creation. So this is like one model's account database essentially for a system. Organization, guys, at scale is obviously super key. The back end of most of our systems are Excel sheets. And then we have like front end interfaces that maintain or interact better, but everything is backed into database forms, which is like, X and Z coordinates. So base information at the top, and you're listing everything below. So yeah, we have like, so I said proxy, the username, the password would all be on the left here, the creation date, what's happening on the account. And then we also have the, obviously like the status of accounts. All the statuses, most of this all gets updated automatically via bots that we have or scripts that we run for these accounts. And this is kind of how we manage SEO. So 100% management becomes super key at scale. So we have our own proxy database, okay, that we monitor what account has each proxy. We have also proxy changers. So let's say we have to change proxy at scale. We have tools for that. Over the last year, we've evolved. 2 years, we've developed and evolved as we scale. I would say a year ago, I remember us all sitting and changing 2,000 proxies by hand over 4 hours.
Dear God.
Yeah. And now we have scripting for it where we can change 5,000 proxies in 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'd say that's a substantially better use of time.
Yeah, exactly. So, a management and organization is super, super, super key, guys. And like I said, it's really base rudimentary fundamentals when it comes down to that, which is we're using spreadsheets as databases, and then doing
I'm not convinced that there's anything better than a spreadsheet. I mean, really, the only thing better than a spreadsheet might be a slightly prettier spreadsheet in something like Airtable. But like, really, you want your database to look like this. No frills, no bullshit.
Exactly. It's the same thing. And whether you're using Notion or Airtable or like, they're all very much database-driven softwares, different layers of integration and delivery on top of it. So but fundamentally, they're all where you can keep your data and organize it.
So, okay, we've created the account now. You've run us through a little bit of like how you're monitoring or tracking the data that's associated with those accounts. But you guys are managing, again, hundreds, thousands of individual social media accounts. So what does the actual process of posting on these accounts look like? How are you just showed us the status monitoring part, but on the back end, but in terms of like an account gets banned, how do you even notice that an account gets banned if you have 10,000 accounts? So how are you managing and tracking all of that?
So again, all of that is happening. Chris, I don't know if you want to show the Discord, but all of this happens again automatically. Chris, pull up a couple of the reports on like banned accounts, etc. So from a monitoring standpoint on actual bans and monitoring, that all happens again automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So every day we run a script that goes, because they're all social media platforms, okay, and all accounts technically are outward facing. So you can use public profile views to check the status of accounts very easily.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of running a quick script across all of our accounts. It updates all our spreadsheets. They again identify here, so you can see here, these ones are saying running, but let's say there was an account they're running because this is the status they're in. If they're not banned and if they're not in warrant up, they're running. If they were banned, this would get automatically updated every single day, and it would show. Chris, do you want to send me a copy of the report?
Yeah, I just sent it. And also, when it gets banned, it goes into a proxy database, marks as banned for us. A lot of this came out of necessity. This is kind of where I learned how to develop, was just fucking around with Google Sheets to make things faster for us, to be able to help identify banned accounts. And then it was from there I kind of grew.
Got it.
Yeah. This would be like a Reddit report. So right now, active on Reddit, okay? This is the date. This is actually today. Okay, and you can see total accounts running active. So we have 47 models running on Reddit, okay, with 4,000 accounts running. 3,900 are active, and we got 92 that were banned. Okay, and then it actually goes over here. You just showed a little screenshot here, but it actually goes over the actual listing of the accounts that are banned.
Got it.
Now our supervisor's going to go in, identify, replace, figure out if there's a pattern to the banning, okay? Is it a user mistake? Is it just, algorithmic? When you're running a scale like this, there's always going to be a burn rate.
Sure, of course.
But yeah, this is kind of how we're monitoring, I guess, the actual status of the accounts. And then we have I'm going to close all this. Each different platform has its own operating mechanisms, okay? So let's talk about like, how do the guys actually post? How do they make sure that things get done at scale? How do we deploy it? Report and monitoring is one thing. Deployment's a whole different thing, right? So we have different categories for different platforms. So the way I look at it is you have 2 or 3 categories of platforms. You have Instagram and X, which is very linear in the actions that you can do, right? And what do I mean by that is you are either posting, okay, whether you're posting a reel or you're posting a picture or a carousel, it is posting mechanism to get traffic, okay? Or you're doing commenting to get traffic, to get views. Those are really the only mechanisms there is to get traffic on Instagram and X, let's say. Those mechanisms are very linear in the sense that it is, create post, attach a document, attach a piece of media, and then post. So they're very easy to automate. All right.
Yeah.
So Instagram and X are completely on automation for us. So there's very little to no actual physical posting going on the platforms. So I will show you guys our actual Instagram, because again, a lot of people don't show behind the scenes. We like to kind of give everybody, the young owners out there, the perspective of what it looks like to being a big agency. Guys, this doesn't mean that you need to have these big things if you're running one or two models. Having VAs with phones is a really good way of starting. So we have multiple systems. We have a phone farm that is completely remotely operated and controlled. I can show you a picture of that. So that is in Vietnam. We have a operator in Vietnam that we brought on board 2 years ago. That this is what he was doing for the last 7 years, was Instagram phone farm management. He was actually selling t-shirts via drop shipping on phone farms. Okay. He was spamming reels. So funny story, right? This is as, like, I guess Vietnamese or Asian as you can get, but he was posting like cat stories and all these different animal creatives and then selling animal t-shirts. Okay, this is what his gig was. We found him selling some accounts. We bought some accounts from him. We recruited him. And now 3 years later, we have about 300 phones fully on automations out in Vietnam. Me, Chris, and a couple of our members have been out there several times to work with him. This is what it looks like, guys. Okay, our phone farm. This is completely remote. Guys, it looks really rough for sure. It's in Vietnam, okay? But we essentially are running that completely from a device monitoring panel. Okay, so that phone farm you see here is completely remotely operated. Every model you can hear. So this is Instagram. So this is our Instagram system, 100% automated Instagram. We are doing reels. We are doing follow unfollow. We're in a couple different strategies on Instagram, but each model we can assign a phone. Okay, guys, you can see multiple phones here. Some people have four. Some girls have 4 phones. So I've talked about girls and models who better get more resources. If this model has 5 phones, this model has 2 phones. This model has 2 phones.
So that's all directly tied to performance.
Exactly. It's exactly tied to performance. The higher return, the more money, and the more, we're going to put into the model. When I actually click on these phones, and I'm not going to click on it here, guys, I'm going to use a screenshot, because if I click on that button, it shows a bunch of account names, but it brings you to this panel, okay? And over on the left here is all the account names, and up at the top, it brings you the status. And we're able to control so you can see there's 50 accounts per phone. Okay, these are run on jailbroken phones, guys, using a fingerprint spoofer. We have our own, but lots of people use what's called Crane, okay, which is a tool that you can basically spoof the fingerprint of the device, making it look like it's a different device every phone you get on, every account you get onto. And then each account also have its own proxy. So it makes it look like you're on 50 different phones with 50 different addresses, but all within one phone, okay? And then we can set different cycles, whether we're looking to post a pic, post a story, do some follows, doing warm-ups like scrolling, viewing. This all happens completely automated. All that needs to get fed here is the creatives, captioning, etc. So one VA can manage 2, 3, 4, 500 accounts fairly easily. So they can manage 2 to 3 models at scale with this system on Instagram. Okay. We have a very similar system with X. Okay. But X, guys, is very forgiving, and we run it on browser. Okay, I'm not here to hold secrets or gatekeep. X is very forgiving when it comes to, there's still very much safe on browsers. There's not major restrictions. Instagram is extremely limiting on browser because it's unnatural, where, like I said, the algorithm on X and the trust score system is still very accommodating. So
I don't even think you can upload content to Instagram in browser.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can, but you can't pick sounds. You can't. There's a lot of restrictions basically on Instagram. Like you said, they changed the algorithm 4 or 5 years ago, or the system 4 or 5 years ago, and it's just, you're wasting your time if you're doing anything on web. I mean, we're X. We have pretty much the exact same system, but it's run through AdsPower. So anybody who doesn't know AdsPower, it's basically what I said when it comes to phone and Crane. It is a tool that you can spoof the device, make it look like it's every unit, actually, I'll show it here because it'll just, again, I'm assuming everybody doesn't know anything. Okay. And for those who are looking for a little bit more insight on some black hat knowledge, this will give you exactly behind the door look here. Give me one.
What's the software that you're using to remotely manage this phone farm? Is this proprietary? Is this something that anybody can access?
So it's not straightforward. This one is the panel here is a custom-made solution. I'm not looking to keep secrets. So we are using what's called AutoTouch. Okay, so they're local base touch scripts on the device. Okay. This makes it so that it's as natural as possible because it's based on XY coordinates, and we activate those scripts using an external server and API. So our logic is outside of the phones, and we're activating individual calls onto the phones that are supernatural. Okay, so for those who are technical may understand that. For those who aren't, may not understand anything I just said. But for the most common use case for phone automation is what people refer to as Appium. Okay. We don't develop an Appium because it's very limiting when it comes to, you need to use a MacBook. It needs to be from a MacBook developer account. And we do find there's more it's easier to use. We found there's been some detection problems in the past when we used it. So we stay away from Appium, and everything we do is as naturally geared as possible for longevity. Okay, so there's no software for phone automation specifically, guys. I'll do a shout out for Ali, again, Neck. There is a couple of servers out there so this is one farm. So we run an automated phone farm, but we also run a automated remote access phone farm. Chris, can you send me the link for that one, please?
Yeah.
I'll show you that. So this is automation, but we also have a remote access. This might be more interesting for the common person because this is very technical, I guess you can say, to automate phones.
Sure.
Where when we're looking at remote access, these are phones that a VA can log into remotely, use them by hand. Chris, did you send it to me?
Yeah, I'm just getting it here. I don't have it saved on myself. There it is.
And that the VAs can log in remotely, use the phone. This makes it so that multiple people can use a device without having to change accounts, devices, hands, etc.
Sure.
Okay, you can run accounts 24/7, and I'll show that in 1 second here. There it is from Chris.
And is this something that you guys also built in-house? Is this all part of the same software?
This is something we build in-house, guys, but it is something that there is various similar tools out there. We took an existing, so it's called GADS for anybody out there who's familiar with GitHub. We basically took an existing open source tool and rebuilt it for ourselves. So GADS. So there's the remote access panel that this would be more applicable to people who are trying to set up a remote infrastructure. So this is what we call GADS. Again, there's other software. Remote, Neck has a similar software, guys, if you're looking to rent remote phones. But if you're looking to build something yourself, there is going to be a technical integration. GADS is what we've used. And basically, you can see here, so there's multiple different, depending on what workplace you're working from. We have different phone setups. So let's say Iago here. I'll go to Ricardo and available. I can go to the phone itself. Okay. And basically, this is remote access to the phone. Okay. I can go here and I can run the phone.
And you are now physically controlling the device that is located in Vietnam manually.
Exactly. Okay. So this is remote access phone system. This is used, guys. So I talked about Instagram, completely automated. I talked about X, completely automated. Threads is also completely automated on phones. Okay. And then let's talk about more nuanced skill-based platforms like Reddit. Okay. So Reddit is not linear, right? I said it's very linear. You post. This is the same post button. It's the same type of content. It's the same caption. When you're talking about Reddit, guys, it is very skill-based in the sense that there is thousands and thousands of subreddits. Okay. Each subreddit has its own type of content that needs to get posted, right? There is different captioning for each type of subreddit, different rules for each subreddit. So it's not linear. It's much more complex to automate. And automation and quality is a little bit more quality is a lot more important on a Reddit than algorithm because you're targeting specific content to a specific niche, to a specific user base. Where on You're doing the same on Instagram and X, but it's kind of going out to the ether a little bit, and you're rolling out.
You're serving the content to a very specific community intentionally.
Exactly.
Whereas you don't have that optionality with Instagram, where it's just you're putting the content out and you're hoping that the algorithm serves it to the correct people. On Reddit, you are the algorithm, essentially. You are determining which subreddits that you want your content to be seen in, posting there, and then it's in the user's hands to elevate that content.
So we have 100 VAs on Reddit, okay, that are manual. They all have physical devices in hand whether they're in an in-house location or remote. We buy within the first 4 weeks of a VA starting, they have a phone in their hands. Okay, regardless if they're using the remote panel, regardless if they're using they're on automation systems, they have a phone to be able to interact with accounts in a healthy manner. Okay. So all of our Reddit operations are still 100% manual. They are 100% skill driven. And it is a matter of matching like niche content, niche captioning, and targeting the right content for the models in the right area.
Just out of curiosity, because I think Reddit especially has become, it's become a little bit more contested, whereas I think in the past it was like you have to be doing Reddit because of the difficulty, like what you just described, is you have 100 employees whose exclusive job it is to post on Reddit. You have these incredibly complex automation systems for every other social media platform.
Yeah.
Is the return that you're getting from Reddit, like obviously from a business perspective, just knowing you, it has to make sense. So explain to me, I guess, like, it would be useful to understand the overall split of revenue between the platforms. Like if you have to have 100 employees specifically for Reddit, I have to assume that's worth it in some capacity.
100%. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to present this, but
by LTVs, Matt.
LTV and cost per acquisition. So cost per acquisition of a Reddit subscriber is anywhere from 25 cents to $1. Okay. That is our cost per acquisition for free. Let's use free as a metrics here for free subscriber. And we are getting anywhere from $4 to $8 a return. Okay. So a VA doesn't have to do much, I guess you can say, to break even at an acquisition cost of $1. So let's say a VA is $125 a week, 100 to 150. So we're using obviously foreign labor for this. Filipino or Brazilian labor, which, it's good pay for them and their demographics. Their return for us is if they're hitting 20 subscribers a day, so what is the metric? So each VA runs about 20 accounts, 20 to 30 accounts. One free subscriber a day per account. So it's a very low threshold, I guess you can say, for the return. So we have some VAs who bring in just 100, 150 free subs a week. Okay, because their skill level is low. We have other VAs who are bringing 100 a day. Okay, and it's very unique to the VA because like level of effort, level of skill, of like creativity. The best VAs are out there actively looking at the results every day. And obviously we're in there with our managers, our supervisors. We're metrics testing, we're telling, we're teaching, we're continuously looking at our lower performers. And Chris, I think you sent a report here, right, of our guys? Yeah. So I can show you here. Every day we get like a little bit of a report from our Reddit team. So obviously Reddit, because it's like so skilled, we have extreme monitoring on it. So it's continuously every single day looking at the team, looking at what they produce, and sending people in to make sure that we are hitting good numbers. So this is like a quick little like ugly summary, but like, Ronnie yesterday got 103 subs. Okay. Kristen got 47 subs. And this is like a daily report. Let's say every day we run this report so we can identify the outliers and then every single day be working with them to improve their results. Okay. So continuous monitoring for anything staff related is the most important thing.
Okay. So now that we're in getting into the topic of actually scaling distribution, we're talking about some of those systems.
Yeah.
So at this point let's say that we're at step 3 in the process. You've created the account, you've rolled it into your management system, you're posting on the account. Now you have to multiply this process by however many models you have, times however many platforms you're posting on, times however many accounts you're using per platform. And so in some cases, like you said, you're going to have models that have hundreds of accounts. So in terms of actually like posting content and scaling creative, how are you guys producing all of this content at scale? And then I'm curious about what it was like early days when you were still figuring it out versus now that you guys presumably have it all pretty dialed in.
So from a content front, it's honestly been one of the easiest things we've had to overcome. Because we started this almost 3 years ago now, we had our initial base model. We were really able to dial in our content approach with models, understanding what it is to work with models that don't want to do a lot of work and having a standardized. So it's understanding what are our models. Our models are only going to work 4 to 6 hours a week, right? So that is we built everything around our model base and then associate it with our marketing strategies. So understand that we only have 4 to 6 hours per model. We needed a really clean and crisp format that was easy for the models to do, but also have enough content to produce and feed the machine, which is, Instagram, Reddit, and also obviously have some shit to sell on the page.
Yep.
So we have what's called a set format. Okay, so every week the models have to deliver 2 sets. Okay, a set consists of A, B, and C. And for instance, I will send you something that you can put in the podcast here to show them the format. I just don't have it available right now.
Yeah, no worries.
And so all of this flows together. A set takes them about 2 hours to shoot, okay? And involves SFW content, which involves like taking some pictures of their day life, getting ready, going to the gym, okay? This is stuff that would just show realism, show that she's a real girl, she's a person. We try to make it follow within their character. But this is just casual daily content. It might go into a story. Maybe it goes into an SFW Reddit post that's warming up an account. Okay. Maybe it's a profile picture. Okay. This goes to just general content to show that she's real. That's section A. This is about 20 to 30 pictures, all of the variation, and 10 to 15 short clips, 30 seconds. We might trim them. That's part A. Then we have part B, which is sexy content. Okay. This is bikini, lingerie. Maybe it's teasing content where like they're covering their boobs. So this is either Instagram, sexy Instagram, or X content that's compliant. Okay. That still falls in SFW. That's non-nude. Or this makes also really good Reddit and SFW content. Okay. So these are like teasers and half news and really explicit stuff, or like borderline explicit that's showing things that's being super sexy, super sexual without showing anything. So this is your classic OnlyFans bait bullshit.
Thirst traps,
exactly. And this is like the most common bland, I guess, like type of content that most people do. And then we just replicate it at sale. So again, those have 30, 40 pictures and a bunch of small clips. And then we have part C, which is usually either a sexting set, okay, or a pay-per-view. This is the selling portion of it. Okay, so this is A, B, they see that on the socials, and then C, they come to the page, and there's a matching sexting set or a pay-per-view of some kind. Maybe it's a long-form niche or fetish pay-per-view, because we have a standard list. So we have 10 sexting sets, shower, bed, car, etc. And then we have like basic pay-per-views that hits like, finger, dildo, riding dildo, maybe some anal, whatever it may be. We have like a checklist for every single model to hit a bunch of different flavors. And this is like our standard approach. It's super standardized, and it feeds 2 sets a week, little requirements from the girls, and it is continuously feeding us content. And then our model managers, who's the team who prepares the requests every week, they have their lists. And then they also have like brand specific or niche specific based on the girl when we start up the girl.
Got it. Okay.
This gives you a little bit of idea on like the content and workflow and how we structure things at scale. So it's very much like a box, and every single girl falls in this box. And then the box gets broken down and distributed and feeds the marketing machine and the sales machine.
It makes perfect sense from an operational perspective. Obviously, from my perspective as somebody who, again, like advocates for the complete opposite approach of like incredibly rigorous focus on a single model and then being as creative as possible in terms of creative and distro. Do you guys have a team that's like coming up with new content ideas, or do you have you just basically say, we have this box of stuff that works, here's an exact template, everyone go do exactly this?
So as much as we do have a box, the model manager, so the first thing we do when a model, we do definitely like lower standards, but the first thing we do with a model is we sit them down and we create a story. Okay. Just like you would any, with your model, I guess your approach, or like a more quality approach, like branding, etc. I'm gonna try to show something here. Give me a second.
So sort of like a character sheet for each.
Exactly. And like we're talking, here it is. So I'll share my screens again, just really, really quick. Because again, I feel like not a lot of people share this stuff. And it gives maybe some younger owners some perspective. So this is like one of our models, and it's pretty in depth. So model manager, okay, marketing, and everybody get together when a new model's signed. They look at her look. We also have like an entry form. What are they into? Obviously, like we want to try to match interests if it makes sense. Okay, and then we create a pretty lengthy, like, what's her occupation? What's her personality? What's her persona? It's pretty in depth. Oh, all right. And then we do try to build the content. So like that sexy content, her storyline, her pay-per-views, we are always trying to gear it, her outfits, her scene, everything within her
To
niche.
align with that character.
Yeah, in line with that character. So we do try, and then we're honestly more specific. We don't do as strong. We do decent storytelling, but what we do really well is really good niching.
The traumatic events, I'm sorry. The
What's that?
traumatic events got me.
Yes, like one of my creative director is very like over the top about it. So if we do have a full creative team that puts a lot of attention and drive into these like little nuanced details, this also goes to the chatter.
Well, that's what fleshes out the character. Like, it's obviously to read it in this
It's funny,
context
yes,
is really funny.
exactly.
But it also, like, clearly that kind of stuff absolutely works.
100%, right? And it's very traditional, I guess you can say old school OnlyFans management. But again, we're just trying to separate our girls from the rest. And it's very much dependent on the character. Like this character's obviously young. She's blonde. She's got that like, that whole, her category of fans is going to be guys who like petite girls or have like a white knight syndrome or like sugar daddies.
Yep,
right?
exactly.
These are the people who are going to have a predisposition to her. If it's a MILF, okay, well, maybe she has a kid. Okay. Maybe she's struggling to get by and has had a bad separation. And, we're always trying to target people and demographics and spending habits based on that person's look.
Yep, makes sense.
Right. So there is some strong branding. So profiles, the way they dress, all of that instigated. The content doesn't necessarily always feed real, I guess you can say, to the character, but we can fix that with captioning, profiles, and have it kind of workflow. So at least there's some tie into the character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And it's like, I'm glad that this is stuff that you guys are thinking about and that you have figured out how to operationalize, because obviously my biggest criticism of the industry in its current state is that there's so many people that are just, they see what has worked 4 years ago and they're copying, 3 and 4 year old pieces of content and expecting to get, COVID era results. It's never going to happen. And so I think seeing someone who is like, you're at least putting effort and thought into the creative in terms of making sure that there is a character for the model, that the creative is aligned with the character, because like that's the only way that you're ever going to get any juice out of this. If you were just doing, like really stupid thirst traps at scale, and I think that's the point that I want to make, is that like the creative, no matter how in what limited of a capacity, there has to be some thought and curation happening. Because if you were just doing, every single one of these girls is just shaking ass on camera, none of this yields anything.
100%. And this is where like I've always agreed with your approach. I like your approach. If my perfect scenario is replicating perfection at scale, and obviously you lose it, right? Like you're never going to have perfection at scale. You always have to give some up, but it's replicating and always continuously to get better and better on better quality content, better branding, better longevity, because there's longevity in branding. There's longevity in characters. There's longevity in all these things. If you are just an ass hoping to go viral, yeah, you might get that viral 1 month, but it's not going to be consistent. So building these character depths, these brands is super crucial to any business and to honestly any social media success.
And then, and even to add to that, like even if a piece of content does go viral, it's all going to be incredibly low intent people for the most part. So you're not even getting conversion off of that.
They don't buy. Exactly. So a lot of it is also, even if it doesn't shine through the most sometimes on the socials, this stuff plays very key into the selling aspects of the business. Framing the customer, so that when they come in, you're not just a piece of ass, you're actually a character with a story and depth. And you can build a better parasocial relationship with them because there's a depth to your character, there's interest to your character. These guys are registering to 100 pages, some of them, okay, especially if it's a free page. So it's a matter of standing out and character differentiation, content differentiation, having a storyline. This is what will arm your chatters to monetize your characters better, raise your LTVs, and turn more dollars for you.
So while we're still on the topic of creative, I also wanted to talk about like the org structure and what the actual like tip to tail delivery process looks like. So you've already talked about, you say that you need 2 sets from the model each week. You have very clean delineated guidelines. You have parameters within which the models are creating the content. Once that piece of content actually gets made, what happens? Whose hands does it touch from there? And like, what does that org chart look like?
So this gives a good guys example of our workflow on media and content workflow specifically. So you can see here at the top, this is essentially taken care of by the model managers. And as you can see, this is even a little breakdown of our part A. I said WM pics in the description, part B and part C. Okay, and I piecemealed together 4 pictures here, guys. So that's why you see some weird things here. Basically, what happens is the model management creates the idea, creates the request, and creates a folder, right? The document basically that folder gets sent to the model to populate. Once it's received down into the folder, okay, it goes into our directory drive. And I'll show you directories. So we have a full directory system. This is also, we have an interface for this, but it gets documented into a drive. Every set gets a number, gets a description, okay, gets a location, and then it gets processed for editing. Okay, has it been curated? Has it been edited? Are the pictures in our database? Okay, what do I mean by database is it goes to editing and then it gets broken down for distribution. This is the key part, guys, here, is you get all the content, but then it needs to be distributed for deployment. Like, how are my VAs going to use it in one big, if it's all broken down separately in folders? No, we categorize it. So it gets kept in one big folder, but then it gets broken down into subcategory folders. And these are copies. So casual sets. So these are like carousel sets. These are NSFW videos, teasers and cuts for social media. So this is all marketing. Profile pictures. So anything that's high quality that could be used for a profile picture goes into a folder. Any sexual pictures. But these are to be considered only the top pictures. So if the model delivers 30 pictures and 6 of them are deemable that are good for marketing, those will go in the sexy pictures. So when marketing's looking for content to use, they can go to these predefined marketing folders and search for content that will meet their needs based on what they're doing. Okay. And then from there, we create packages, and this happens on automation. So this is like kind of our workflow from model management down to media. So our media team who edits and then feeds it. And from here, it goes to marketing for distribution. And then obviously we have sales. So another great one, guys, I'll look over quick here too, is like org chart. Is our company org chart. Okay, just to give you an idea of the level of like organization here that happens at scale. I'm fucking back on this one here.
And just to clarify, for anybody that might be intimidated by this level of organization, it is obviously always good to keep things like together. If you're, Matt's got how many employees do you have at this point?
300 employees and 60 models. So
you kind of need it at this point.
We need it, right?
Yeah.
And again, guys, this is for anybody looking for like a peek behind the scenes on if you're looking to grow your business over the next 2-3 years, this is something serious for you. And you're looking to scale, what does require to scale multi-level businesses where there's a lot of hands touching a lot of different processes. Everything needs to be organized. Everything needs to be structured and the workflows need to be clear. This here, guys, is just, our management flow chart. This is not staff. And you can see here, and I talked about this in our last video from marketing, right? So we have supervisors that move into category managers that move into, shift managers for all marketing and moves into a marketing manager that then feeds to the other teams. Same for our IT department, our sales department, etc. There's massive amounts of supervision, guys, that go into management. So again, for the young entrepreneurs out there, you cannot do this alone, in my opinion, if you're trying to do anything at scale. A lot of these functions, if you're a one-man operator with a few models, you're pretty much the head of marketing. You're the head of model management.
Yes.
You're the head of media. You're the head of sales, right? But if you're looking to escape the day-to-day operations, it's understanding you're going to be giving up some control, you're going to give up some quality, and you're obviously going to give up some profit, guys. But also, if I disappear for 6 months right now, will my company grow? Maybe not exponentially, but it will run and we will continue to be profitable for the next forever, regardless if I'm here or not, which I think is the goal for, any business owner, unless you're just trying to get a bag and run with it, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. I think that's great advice. All right. So You guys have at this point walked us through the entire process of constructing and operating this marketing machine that you've built. But the challenge is now you've spent all this time, money, effort in assembling this engine. You have to be able to figure out how to like actually monitor that all of the parts are working, which pieces might be malfunctioning, which pieces might require attention in order to keep it all running smoothly. So I have 3 questions here. First question is, what are the actual KPIs and benchmarks that you're looking at to measure account performance? Because you're distributing accounts to models based on performance. So how are you measuring that?
So you're talking about accounts as in models itself, who gets more accounts, less accounts, etc.
Yeah, how are you measuring performance on those accounts?
So our main indicators on a weekly basis that we document rigidly, especially during that first 4-week number is we put the initial marketing campaign, which is 2 Reddit VAs, Instagram, and X, and we are monitoring overall views, okay, that they're achieving views to conversion. So views to clicks, clicks to conversion. Okay, so this will tell us how well our model converts and is accepted on social medias. There's also some variance there depending on skill. But the main indicator we're looking for is how they sell, okay? And that is indicated, the main indicator for us is LTV, right? And again, it's not always linear because chatter skill, et cetera, can play variance. But we are always monitoring free LTV, okay, and paid LTV over a 7-day and 30-day period. Okay, so I can show kind of like a quick screenshot here of let's say.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But I mean, that all makes sense. I think it's something that's easy to forget is that people tie, like ultimately in some very real sense, views and followers are a vanity metric. What matters at the end of the day is the amount of revenue that the model is generating per account in your case. That makes perfect sense. It's just something that like I think people kind of lose sight of because they're like, oh, my model got to 1 million followers. It's like, well, how's she converting?
100%. So like, here's a little, give me a second here, screenshot. I'm trying to like not show too much, but also show. So this is like a screenshot of a 7-day LTV, which again is just a little sneak peek. Okay, and this is like this is again a spreadsheet, but we have a OnlyFans API we pull these into, and then it just done by equations essentially. So this is like again free LTV, paid LTV, and then we have a weighted total LTV for the model. And yeah, these are like our key indicators. So this is a 7-day, and then we look at more specifically that 30-day. So 7-day monitors our trends week to week. This is telling us like based on 30 days, okay, are we extracting well this week? Are we not extracting well? Has there been variance week to week? And then their 30-day gives us kind of a more longer term pattern, removing some of the dependencies of luck, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
So again, we're always trying to get in that $3-4 range. Obviously, you have some that are very high, right? So if they're getting a very high return, both on like their paid and their free, well, this is a good model to pump money into.
Sure, makes sense.
And get a higher return. We're down here, you know what? We're making money because we know we have a dollar acquisition, and we know our paid acquisition is $10, $15, whatever it may be. But you know what? Let's focus more up here while we try to identify. So new models. So we have different coding systems. So blue is like our farm models. So these are models who have been with us for a long time, whom shown they can do well. They're stable, but they have a limit. We're never going to put more into them. Green is what we call our premium models. These are girls that have shown to be consistent. They're hungry. They're stable, and we've seen good returns on them. And then purple is new models. Okay. Red is trouble models, but it doesn't mean it's always trouble because they're doing bad. It may be because there's maybe a personality defect, or we see some problems with, you know how it is. Everybody's lost models out there. They're having a conflict in their life and we don't know what's going on, or maybe they're thinking about leaving, or they want more money, or whatever it may be. Okay. Then we start looking at de-risking possibly the model. We don't want to put more investments in a risk model. So we have categorizations per model in our system, and it's always dependent on LTV, personality, different various things like that. But this gives you like, this is our most active every single week. We are looking at this weekly if we're not looking and obsessing about marketing analytics. So I'll show you quickly the marketing analytics.
Really quickly, could you go back to that screenshot? There's one thing that I want to double click on that I think is important.
Yeah.
You have, I'm noticing that you have like the colored yellow and red cells. I'm assuming like if they dip below a certain performance threshold. The question that I have is, how did you come to the determination of like benchmark free LTV? It looks like anything below $4.
purely based on cost per acquisition in our business model. Right. So it's understanding what my cost per acquisition is, understanding what my overhead and chat costs are, and then understanding where our goals are. So if our goals is 40 to 50% margin, right, plus on up. So obviously these girls here, they're probably in like 60, 70% margin.
Yeah.
These girls, $4, our $4 benchmark is to achieve a 50% margin.
Got it.
Right. So it's always based on those metrics and an assumption of a $1 cost per acquisition. So again, if we get a better cost per acquisition, it drives more.
Sure.
If we get a little bit lower, we get less. We will live with $1.25, $1 cost per acquisition, but we also know that traffic is probably going to only get us 25% margin.
Right. So as long as it's profitable, you're fine with it, but your ideal threshold is 50% margin.
Exactly.
And the reason
our additional features we're okay to have less margin on. Right? So our base fundamental, we always is based on a 50% margin. So like those initial Reddit, Instagram, and X, we aim for a 50% margin. If we're not hitting it and our cost per acquisition is high, it's probably because something needs to be tweaked on marketing.
Sure.
Okay. Maybe the VA is bad. Maybe we're doing something wrong. Maybe the sales bad. Maybe the accounts are bad.
But it alerts somebody to investigate that issue.
Exactly. So we're watching cost per acquisition super closely, and then we're watching like LTVs very closely.
Got it. Yeah, the reason that I wanted to zoom in on that a little bit is one of the most common questions that I get, not in my consulting practice, because most of the people that I talk to on that end are a little more advanced, but in like my Telegram group or sometimes in the comments on YouTube videos, is what is a good LTV? And it's like it's just the wrong question. And so I like your approach, which is basically saying like, we're not really looking at like LTV as a sort of meaningless float number. What we actually care about is CAC-to-LTV.
100%. Exactly. It's always CAC-to-LTV because at the end of the day, we have a saying, if it makes money, it makes sense. So I'm willing to take 20 to 30% if there's a good volume and it's consistent and it's low effort. Level of effort too for the margin matters. Right. So like, why do we do Reddit and there's a little bit more effort? Well, we get a good LTV.
Yep.
Okay. If I had to do a shitload of effort for 25%, 20%, maybe it's a strategy we might not want to do. But let's say I'm purchasing traffic. Lots of people use referral traffic or purchase traffic, let's say, and it's 25% margin because they only cost me $1.50 and I make $3. Okay. And there's less margin on it, but there's no effort. Well, you know what? I'm not losing money. There's no effort. I'm turning dollars. I know my numbers really well. It makes sense to add for certain models.
Yep, for sure. Okay, so now back to what you were talking about. I think what you were about to get into is...
I was just going to show like how the cost per acquisition associates with our tracking system. So let's say like this is one of our internal tracking systems here, and I'm just going to show like a couple categories here, and we can basically measure like each VA, what time frame. Let's say, like I look at the last, obviously I showed you that one report where it shows exactly how many subs they got, but I just look and dig it down to where each VA gets their own tracking link, gets their own model, gets their own system, and then also gets a dollar number associated with them. So like this VA last week got 10 paid subscribers. Okay. And I showed you the range there, right from the 7 to 7, but those 10 paid subscribers spent $1,800.
Yeah, so very high quality leads.
Very right, and very high quality. And this VA is $150 a week.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, very profitable there.
Right, very profitable. What does it cost to run Reddit? Well, it's proxies, it's account. There's maybe some other soft costs, but it's also not that expensive. Your biggest thing is skill. Your biggest cost, guys, in your entire business, in every business, honestly, in most industries, is going to be labor. Okay, to run your company like that, unless you're running an SAS company or this business, e-business too, you can be very lean. But most businesses, guys, at scale, your biggest cost is always going to be labor, human capital. So it's understanding where your human capital is, how much it costs, and how much money it's making you.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. That's, if you look at OnlyFans itself, I think it's widely cited as having like the highest revenue per employee of any company with public financials for
They're killing it.
A very good reason.
100%.
So the next question, I think the natural follow-up question here is, at the scale that you're operating at, there's obviously a lot of software involved. Most of this is automated, as you said. So do you just use like an amalgamation of CRMs? You guys obviously have built in-house proprietary tools. What is kind of the playbook there? How did you guys figure out what you needed visibility over and then figured out who the providers were and create the rest yourself, I guess.
So I'll shout out a couple guys here. I'm going to shout out to Inflo and shout out to both Inflo and SuperCreator. So people might say we're crazy running multiple CRMs like at the costs they're at. But for us, it just makes sense. So I believe that, there's multiple other platforms out there. There's like these, fans metrics, let's say. There's a couple other indicators. We do on the marketing front have a lot of our own like custom solutions with an API. But then obviously we're super integrated in with Inflo, who's been a strong partner for us, and then SuperCreator as well, who has some amazing like AI technology, AI chatting, AI tooling, and then honestly, their analytics are very good as well. So both tools we leverage for both reporting, monitoring at scale, Inflo being our main tool for sales, I guess you can say. Sales monitoring, employee sales monitoring, and then SuperCreator being more on creator analytics, and then AI integrations into the chatting structure. And then I would say most of the other features are in-house mostly at this point, because we've built our own monitoring panels, we've built our own monitoring system. But I do recommend there's lots of different softwares out there for monitoring and centralizing your tasks and your tracking links. And like I said, I mentioned fan metrics. I know BTZ in their group have OFM metrics or whatever it's called. There's a bunch of different tools out there, guys, that are really good. And I do like understand your numbers, understand where your money is going, understand where your traffic's going. Tracking and analytics are the foundation of your business. The guys who are just like, yeah, I'm making money, those are the guys that end up in a year without, when things break, they're burning money and they don't realize it. So understanding where your money is, analytics, and how your business and monitoring it daily is key to running a good financial back end of your business. Understanding what's working and what's not working.
Yeah, I mean, what you're basically doing here is by having robust infrastructure for reporting, you're de-risking your business in a very real way, because you just like, otherwise, if you don't have that level of visibility, it might look like an overwhelming amount of data at first. And actually, that's probably what my next question is going to be about. But this is absolutely essential for like understanding how you're functioning as a business. And you guys have the fact that you can immediately identify where things are broken in that engine, and then go in there and fix it, either remove the problematic employee or not invest resources into the problematic model, and then also identify your best performers and allocate more resources to them. That's the reason that you guys are able to grow as an organization in large part, I would imagine.
100%. And it's obviously something that we're not perfect at. Like I said, as advanced as we are, guys, I know some guys out there who have been at this longer than we are. Rich in the top 100 has been a really good inspiration for us on monitoring. Actually, I'll show you one other really cool tool at scale that we're in the product developing. And again, this was Live Rich that gave us this. It is basically a LLM here for chat. And this is, again, really crucial to chatting. So I can pull in from Inflo's message board. Okay, so for those who are not familiar with Inflo's message board here, again, just to give everybody a little bit of inspiration, and sorry, Rich, if I'm spilling some secrets here, but this is a message board. This helps you track who's sending what messages. You can export. We are working on a tool where we can export these reports daily. Okay, and every single day. So, right, what's a big problem at scale is you have so many chatters that you can't see what everybody's doing in every single chat, right? They're sending thousands of messages. It becomes difficult even with lots of supervision. So let's say I go to Aaron Kimson here. This is yesterday's report I pulled. Okay, it pulls a rule report here, but I can actually go in through with AI, okay, in an AI LLM model that we're training and that we've trained through the last year based on 2 years worth of data of our own chats. We're able to pull out a very detailed report where it tells us like exactly what happened during the chats, if they left people on red, how many interest signals, so that means buy signals were there versus how many total offers they sent. It also gives them advice and examples on things and opportunities they missed out on and how to improve them, KPIs of their shift versus other people. And this is like a full, almost like a live monitoring system at scale using AI and chat history to give daily feedback in extreme detail to your chatters so that they can improve, grow. And also this gives visibility to management. Guys, like I said, you have 90 accounts hooked up to your Inflo. Even if you're fucking 5 guys looking at the chats every single shift, you miss things. We have 40 chatters on, 30 chatters on. It's impossible to see everything. AI integration has been a huge tool for us. We are still perfecting it. This is a system that other people have perfected already that we're in the middle of perfecting. But we do believe in the AI wave. We are leveraging AI in almost every single part of the business, and it's trying to streamline data so that we can make better decisions, fix problems faster, and optimize our workflows as much as possible. So these offer rates, pretty much as much detail as you want, is here, and we can kind of really dig in day to day. And then, even gives you conversation IDs where we can dig in further into that conversation and use these as teachable events to the.
Got it. No, it's just such a level of granularity, and like it's very impressive what you guys have, not only what you guys have built, but like your ability to integrate all of it relatively seamlessly. My last question about like performance tracking and this whole set of systems. Are there any places that you wish that you had more insight, or maybe that there were better tools for you, or things that you guys are actively working on improving?
Yeah, like I would say, like I said, this is why we're on the chats right now. I would say from a social media standpoint, there's tons and tons and tons of third-party tools. There's tons of integrations because it's widely applicable to other markets. So whether you're marketing shampoo or whatever you're trying to market, or a service or something local on social media, there's tons of analytics out there for social media, right? Because it's not unique to OnlyFans. Where I believe that on the sales side, right, you do have the CRM, but there's not as many widely available solutions for analytics, monitoring, etc. Flow does an amazing job. SuperCreator does a job. I would say, Only Monster does some good stuff too. They all do good things, but there is still lots of gaps to be held on the chat side. So yeah, like this is something that the industry I know is improving. The CRM guys are improving. We're improving, but there's also the fact that we also know that AI chatting is coming. It's something that we are actively working with and working on. And analytics, storytelling, and are really going to be more key as well to AI optimization. So like, where is AI doing good? Where are they breaking? Where does it need to be trained to do better? This is a key fundamental and a key tooling, and understanding this so that as the AI improves, develops, you're going to be on the front end of it, using it the best way possible. So yeah, like I think that just chatting overall is probably the weaker part. I think everybody struggles with this a little bit. I think you hear it from most agencies. There's just less knowledge out there about it. And because it's like a taboo industry, it's not always readily available to everybody. But yeah, so like tooling wise, I would say like that's probably the weaker side. But I also think it's the one that's evolving and changing the fastest with the revolution of AI.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, makes perfect sense. I think that was all the questions that I have for you guys for now. Chris, is there anything that you wanted to add to that about like tooling, software, the direction that you guys are going?
No, we're super integrated with our Discord. We believe in sharing the stats with our teams. Team members can't know how they're stacking up against other employees without sharing all that data. So all this stuff is mostly integrated to our Discord channels.
I'll show Chris. I'll
Where
show you if you want to walk over. Because like even just give it again, trying to add value to everybody's life here. Discord's our virtual office. Okay, guys, and you can see here. What time is it? So it's 1:30. So you can see here we have like very organized. We have a like model management. We have our IT department. There's guys meeting in the virtual room. So if they're working, they're online. We have Twitter here. We got Meta, Meta ads. We talked about a little bit. Instagram. We have our sales office. We have Tyler, and I talk, and we have group rooms. Okay. So these are teams. So these are people that may be from multiple apartments working together. And as you can see, like having like structure, having organization, having workflows is super, super key. And like Chris said, Discord is a huge deployment tool for us. Some people do email, some people do Telegram, some people do Slack, some people do whatever it may be. Discord has been an amazing tool for us, right? And how we organize it. And then, like I said, our departments, a lot of the bots Chris has created are integrated into here. A lot of the reports get deployed through here. You can see media reports. So these are automatically generated media reports saying, when there's new content, it's pings the guys. Chris, I don't know if you want to take it from here, but yeah.
So we have a few. So we want to go down to the Reddit area there. And all of these you can start from within within a channel. So here's the one that we could start within the channel. This is that report that we showed that's like the Reddit checker. It shows the banned accounts and all that type of thing, how many accounts we have running. We have red gifts. So a lot of all the tools we put in here is so that we don't have to give access or teach VAs too much. You got the upvote bot, which is connected to one of the providers out there. The team literally just has to drop in their link and they go. This is a subreddit checker. It gives kind of like the best captions, if there's requirements to get into that, all that type of thing. And then a lot of the reports get shot right to like Reddit supervisor chat room. Here's like some of the reports for our models. So this is models. And then we also have per VA. As we said before, we have individual trackers for every single VA, which comes from that site Matt was showing or Hive was showing.
Yeah, this is for Reddit. And then, like I said, yeah, it all like every division is basically integrated with multiple reporting and multiple structures. So everything you saw on the back end there, all the spreadsheets, everything is fully integrated with automations and workflows and reporting into our Discord, which is our main deployment platform.
Absolutely nuts. I mean, yeah, just it's just the number, the raw volume of channels, the amount of information that's contained in those. I'd be curious to see like if this was all like one big package of data, how large that file would be.
It's like I said, we were putting some stuff together for this right before the podcast, and we're just like trying to scrape through everything. It definitely, like I said, it's a lot, but it just what requires to run like a big monster, you know. And again, guys, a lot of this he extrapolated and scaled from a small sample. So we did this internally. When I first started, it was like I'm the marketer, but I still had a spreadsheet with a directory because even for me, I needed to know where my sets were and where the links were. Right. So these are fundamental skills, organization skills that you don't have to have all these different deployments because the deployment is me, but you do need to have organization and structure within your own self, okay, and within your own systems. This also makes it so that other people come in, you now have structure and it's not just you like explaining things to people. So even if you're a one-man operation, guys, I urge you guys like structure, organization, even for yourself is super, super key. You don't need all the bells and whistles. You don't need the extremely intricate tracking tools, but you need to understand tracking. You need to have some basic tracking tools. You need to be able to look at it and understand what did I do that broke and what do I do that's working. Okay, you don't need to figure out like who's doing what that's not working, but you need to know what you're doing is working. So you need to have clear KPIs and clear systems, regardless if you have one model or 5 models, to understand if what you're doing is successful and financially viable.
Insane amount of knowledge that you guys just shared on this. I very much appreciate you guys' time. Thank you for coming on. And I'm sure the audience appreciates it as well. As you've like repeatedly iterated throughout this whole thing, people are not very open about their internal systems. I think a lot of like OFMs think like I built all of this. I'm the only one that's doing this. I have to like hide it all away. When in reality, like all of this is stuff that you guys constructed from first principles. Like you understood, okay, I have a business need here. How can we build around this? And like in reality, everybody should be doing that. And it's refreshing to talk to somebody else in the space who just there's no gatekeeping whatsoever. So very much appreciate that, guys.
No problem. And like I'll say it again. We run a community, guys. Hive. Honestly, I haven't been super active there recently, but we try to put information out and knowledge that's going to help young entrepreneurs. I can't change the entire industry, but I can try to help anybody we come into contact with. It doesn't hurt us to help. So anybody who's looking to connect, looking to learn, please check the group. There's tons of good information. Francis as well. I found you through YouTube. I'm actively always researching, even though you always want to know what's going on. There's tons of really good information there. I've even shared a lot of your videos to our team.
I appreciate that. That's
on
great.
Branding and on some other things, because there's just a lot of really good information, guys. And you got to be hungry, you got to be learning. But yeah, feel free to check us out. Feel free to reach out. We're always looking for people to work with, employees, people who might be looking to grow in the industry. So anything and all opportunities we're open to, and we're willing to help anybody along the line as well, guys. So Francis has been fantastic, and if there's anything, guys, feel free to reach out anytime.
If you made it this far, there are 2 things I need you to do right now. First, join both Telegram communities, mine and Hive's. Links are in the description, and these are the 2 places where real operators are actually sharing what's working and exchanging legitimate value, as opposed to spamming VA jobs and regurgitating bullshit advice from 2020 like every other OFM group chat you're in. Second, if you watch this and you thought, wow, there's a lot more to OFM than I thought, I really need to up my game, my upcoming course, OnlyFans Organic Mastery, is exactly what you need. It is the most comprehensive OFM course in the world. It covers everything from account setup to brand strategy to video editing, all specifically for OnlyFans models. And right now, you can grab early access before the price goes up. Link is the first thing in the description. Friendly reminder, subscribe if you haven't already, and please leave a comment thanking Matt and Chris. They are insane for sharing all of this. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.